Okay, I want you to do me a favor and just picture something for a second. Think about that one specific thing in your life that you really want to do, but, well, you just haven't. Maybe it's a super difficult conversation you've been dodging, or a career leap you keep putting off. Heck, maybe it's just finally cleaning out that terrifying garage. Whatever it is, it's a version of your life that's hanging out there, just out of reach, because you won't take that first step. Do you have it in your head? Okay, good. So ask yourself honestly, why haven't you done it? And look, if we strip away all those highly practical, totally logical excuses we love to use, I don't have enough time right now, or I'm just too busy, or the classic, maybe next year, what's the actual invisible barrier holding you back? Because, spoiler alert, it's not logistics, and it's definitely not your schedule. The real answer, hiding right underneath all those perfectly crafted excuses, is fear. It's the fear of failure, the fear of being judged by your peers, the fear of the absolute unknown, or, and this is a big one, the fear of finding out you aren't quite as capable as you hoped you were. Fear is literally the single most common reason people don't live the life they actually want. Not by waving a magic wand and making it disappear, but by understanding what it actually is and figuring out how to take action anyway. Which brings us right to part one, the big lie fear tells you. And the truth is, fear is not your enemy. We actually need to flip our perspective on this right out of the gate. Because the most crucial rule to learn here is that fear isn't out to get you. It is literally just your brain doing its job. Seriously, to get this, we gotta look at the hardware. Fear is generated by the amygdala. That's a tiny, almond-shaped structure buried way deep inside your brain, and it evolved over millions of years for one highly specific purpose: to keep you from being eaten. Way back when, if our ancient ancestors heard a random rustle in the bushes, the amygdala would instantly fire off a freeze, fight, or run response. That internal alarm system is exactly what kept them alive. But that brilliantly highlights the core problem we're dealing with today. There is a massive biological glitch in the system. So your brain actually cannot tell the difference between ancient physical threats, like a literal lion jumping out of the bushes, and modern social threats to your ego, like, say, sending a tough email to your boss or finally speaking up on a Zoom call. To your amygdala, a hungry lion and a typo in a company-wide email are the exact same thing. It treats both of them by smashing that exact same panic button. So what does this actually mean for you? It means those sweaty palms, that tight chest, or that racing heart you get right before a high-stakes presentation. That feeling is not a sign that something terrible is about to happen to you. It's just your brain running an ancient pattern match to a threat that doesn't even exist anymore. The physical feeling you're experiencing is very real, but the danger usually isn't. And honestly, the second you truly grasp that, fear just instantly loses so much of its power. All right, so let's get into part two, 4 ways to actually override this fear and take action anyway. So the obvious question here is, how do we consciously override this ancient alarm system in real time? Let's walk through 4 super practical, proven methods. Method 1 is this brilliant concept popularized by Tim Ferriss called fear setting. It is basically the exact opposite of goal setting. Instead of sitting around visualizing success, you actually write down every specific, terrifying thing you are afraid will happen if you take action. Then you look at it and ask yourself, okay, how likely is this, really? And if the absolute worst did happen, how would I recover? Once you actually put it on paper, you quickly realize that almost every single time, the outcome you're dreading is completely survivable, highly unlikely, or, at worst, totally temporary. The fear feels permanent, but the consequence rarely is. By doing this, you start treating your fear like a compass, pointing you directly toward the exact discomfort you need to tackle to grow. Then we have method 2, which is all about acting before fear even has a chance to stop you. This is Mel Robbins' famous 5-second rule. The concept is ridiculously simple but unbelievably effective. It goes like this. The absolute second you feel yourself hesitating before doing something you know you need to do, you count backward, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you move. You physically move your body before your brain has any time to generate an excuse not to. And the neuroscience behind why counting backward actually works is absolutely fascinating. See, when you hesitate, your rational brain, your prefrontal cortex, starts trying to talk you out of things. It rapidly spins up worst-case scenarios and feeds you perfectly logical-sounding excuses to just stay right there in your comfort zone. But counting backward interrupts that exact cognitive process. It creates this tiny magical window of conscious override. You aren't actually fighting the fear. You're just outrunning it before it fully boots up. Which brings us to method 3, exposure. Now, if you want to permanently dial down your fear, this is exactly how you do it. And look, this isn't just some motivational fluff. This is the literal foundation of cognitive behavioral therapy, which happens to be the most evidence-based psychological treatment we have for anxiety. Exposure just means doing the thing you're terrified of, repeatedly, in a controlled way, until your brain finally recalibrates and goes, oh wait, the threat isn't actually real. But you don't need a therapist to start applying this to your daily life. It's all about everyday micro-exposures. Are you terrified of rejection? Try sending one cold message a day. Afraid of public speaking? Commit to saying just one single sentence in every meeting for a week. The goal is to take one small risk every single day. By doing this, you are slowly, deliberately training your nervous system. You're piling up so much undeniable evidence that the danger doesn't exist, that the terrifying thing eventually just becomes totally ordinary. And that leads us perfectly into method 4, separating the feeling from the story. Here's the thing. Fear, as a purely physical sensation, the racing heart, the shallow breathing, it's entirely neutral. It is literally just your body prepping for action. The problem isn't the physical feeling itself. The problem is the story your mind automatically builds on top of it. It's that heavy, I'm gonna fail or I'm not good enough narrative that actually paralyzes you. Harvard psychologist Alison Wood-Brooks actually proved this in a pretty amazing study. She found that people who simply relabeled their physical stress by saying out loud, I am excited, right before a stressful event, actually performed significantly better than those who just tried to calm themselves down. The physical body state was exactly the same, but by stripping away the negative narrative of fear and replacing it with excitement, the whole feeling became completely manageable. It literally transformed from a prophecy of failure into a body state gearing up for success. All right, section 3. Let's talk about the true cost of waiting and the heavy price of avoidance. So we've talked a lot about how to push back against fear, but we really need to ask, what is letting fear make your decisions actually costing you right now? It so often feels like backing down is keeping you safe, right? But it's actually doing the exact opposite. In behavioral psychology, chronic avoidance is a very well-documented cause of anxiety, low self-worth, and deep, deep regret. Avoiding the thing you're afraid of doesn't reduce the fear, it feeds it. Every single time you back down, the fear gets just a little bit bigger, and your belief in your own capability gets just a little bit smaller. So here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. Those people you look at who seem to just live fearlessly, they were not born brave, I promise you. They simply acted despite the fear. They went out and did the thing, completely imperfectly, totally uncomfortably, and while absolutely terrified. They just did it enough times that they built this unshakable belief in their own ability to handle hard things. Listen, every brave person you admire feels the exact same fear that you do right now. Courage is not the absence of fear. The only difference is that they acted anyway. And every single time they chose to step forward instead of stepping back, they became a little bit harder to scare. Taking action is quite literally the only way to earn that self-belief. What is chronic avoidance costing you in your life right now? That incredible version of yourself you really want to be? That's not just some fantasy, but you are never ever going to meet them if you just sit around waiting for the fear to completely vanish. So stop waiting. Start moving forward today, even while the fear is still sitting right there with you.